Welcome back. A major week in Washington for the Trump agenda. Lawmakers begin work on the final reconciliation bill after Senate Republicans passed their budget resolution over the weekend. That resolution includes $5 trillion in tax cuts. It makes the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act permanent. It raises the debt limit by $5 trillion, and it provides funding for the border and for defense. But the bill only provides $5 billion in spending cuts, while the House's version cuts $1.5 trillion. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson is serious about a May deadline for the president to sign this. He says lawmakers are on track to send a final bill to the president's desk by Memorial Day. But he is stressing that it must include historic spending cuts while protecting essential programs. Johnson is also saying he's not going to compete with the Senate. He says we have made it clear the House will not accept nor participate in an us versus them process, resulting in a take it or leave it proposition from the Senate. Joining me now is Texas Congresswoman Monica de la Cruz. Congresswoman, it's good to see you. As you know, Congresswoman, as these tariffs have hit global markets hard and the Dow Industrials and the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 have been swooning, the tax cut extensions become that much more important. Where are you on this work?
That is exactly right. And that's why it is so important that we pass the bill that came from the Senate this week in the House. That is the starting point. And at the end of the day, it's important that we have that bill in place, that it passes, because we must increase border security, we must unleash American energy, and we must deliver on the mandate that the American people said, which is to put President Trump's America First agenda first. That's why it's critical that we pass this agenda this week, and that begins the reconciliation process.
So what specifically can you get done this week before Congress leaves for the Easter recess?
Well, it's to pass the legislation that the Senate sent over. We have discussed it over here on the House, and it is important that we push it forward because these tax cuts that President Trump did in his first term, we must keep them in place. We must unleash American energy, and we have to secure a border. That is why we won the House, we won the Senate, and we won the White House. The American people gave us a mandate, and that is to put the America First agenda first. And that's why it must pass this week.
Okay, so you are expecting one big bill still. And that bill will include the extensions of the tax cuts, is what you're saying. And you are expecting that bill to be on the president's desk by May. Is that what you're saying?
I think that is what we're all working towards, is to have that by Memorial Day. Okay. All of us want to secure a border and to unleash American energy and to put President Trump's America First agenda at the forefront. And it is important to pass the legislation this week. We must stand together, the House and the Senate, and support President Trump.
I want to get your take on tariffs and Congress's role here. The president says his tariffs are already bringing in tens of billions of dollars into America. He writes this on Truth Social. We have massive financial deficits with China, the European Union, and many others. The only way this problem can be cured is with tariffs. Someday, people will realize that tariffs for the United States of America are a very beautiful thing. The president is explaining away his agenda. This post he put out last night in the midst of all of this market melting down. Elon Musk also weighed in. Watch this.
I hope it is agreed that both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America.
So what do you know about this? Do you expect that we are going to hear President Trump announce deals, and where does Congress stand on it? You know that California Congressman David Vallado is supporting a bipartisan Senate bill which forces the president to get Congress's approval for the use of tariffs. Congresswoman, your reaction?
Look, I am in Deep South Texas, where our trade with Mexico is very important to South Texas. As a small business owner, I understand how tariffs can impact small business owners in communities like mine. Now, this is why I worked very closely with the White House during this process to make sure that there were essential products that fell in the USMCA that were not going to have any tariffs, because I knew that the impact would be great in my community in South Texas. I hope that this is a short-term tool that the president is using for a long-term strategy. And that strategy is for economic success in America. We want to put American workers first, American businesses first, and the art of the deal is where President Trump does his best. And I think that's what we're seeing. We saw in President Trump's first term that he was able to use tariff negotiations to do great things like the USMCA trade agreement. And I believe that that will happen once again for overall economic success in the United States. And no one wants economic success and prosperity more than President Trump. And that is the long-term goal here.
Yeah, part of the issue is that after President Trump's first term, a number of companies removed supply chains or moved to move supply chains out of China and toward Mexico and North America because of USMCA. Tom Lee writes this: companies are not reacting solely to tariffs, but to the perceived betrayal of a stable regulatory framework essential for long-term investment and planning. The suddenness of executive orders left supply chains stranded, particularly those redirected away from China during Trump 1.0. The dislocation is material. Capital invested in building diversified manufacturing operations is now at risk. So, Congressman, what do you want to say to corporations who are thinking, what am I going to do now? I moved my supply chain out of China because I thought that was the directive after Trump 1.0. Now I'm worried about Mexico.
Well, I can understand their concern, but here is the facts, is that we needed to decouple ourselves from communist China because they were not good for national security. They were not putting the America First agenda for us to move forward. And so it was important for us to decouple ourselves from communist China. Now we have an America First agenda where the president wants to put American businesses first. And so, look, I understand that right now there is a concern and the instability, but I believe that it will be short term for a long-term goal, which is to have economic prosperity here in the United States.
Liz Peek, real quick, jump in.
I mean, clearly we have to have all Republicans in Congress on board to get a bill passed. And I do worry that there's some, like Don Bacon in Nebraska, who are pushing back on tariffs, who are using that as a bit of a cudgel. Is that going to slow up this reconciliation process?
We have a couple of days to have discussions, and that's what Congress was made for us to debate policy, to debate legislation, and now to debate tariffs. So I believe in the next couple of days there's going to be a lot of talk about this.
Another reason President Trump wanted Elise Stefanik back in the House. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thank you so much. Monica De La Cruz, we appreciate your time. Stay with us. We'll be right back.